everybody, it's Christopher Dixieland Farm. Dixieland Farm has been in business for 20 years. I've been doing this for 20 years, being a farmer. Before I used to work in television. Crazy to think. And I've been in the vinyl community now for 10 and a half years, going on 11 years. Also crazy to think. Lots of vinyl. But I don't know if I'm technically still in the vinyl community since I don't really buy vinyl anymore. I think once you're in, you know. Kind of a mafia situation. I've been buying lots of stuff digitally or acquiring stuff digitally. And the reason is because of Dixieland Farm being in business for 20 years. And I know that the economy is going to tank here, so I've got to be careful with how I spend my money. Lots of expenses happened last year. And so I haven't been buying vinyl for several years now because also the craze took off. This stuff used to be cheap. It is not cheap anymore. Plus lots of new music. I mean, it's just super expensive to take a gamble on, so I get it digitally. So I have not done a update of what I've been listening to for the past, 2 years. So we're going to kind of blend 2021 and 2022 in what have I been listening to. In 2021, I was listening to a lot of Phoebe Bridgers, did a video on Phoebe Bridgers. So songs like Motion Sickness and off her first album was great. Kind of a dig against Ryan Adams, which he certainly deserves, being the jerk that he is, and serial abuser. So, and Kyoto, about her strained relationship with her father, which I understood. I had a kind of interesting relationship with my family as well. And recently he passed away, so it's kind of good that they didn't sort through things, but they did get to an understanding. So that is something also.
I have motion sickness. Somebody roll the windows down. You called me from a payphone. They still got payphones. It cost $1 a minute to tell me you're getting sober. You wrote me a letter, but I don't have to read it.
So also, Billie Eilish's album came out. She had a video on Disney Plus of her playing at the Hollywood Bowl, which is great. And songs like Getting Older show how she's not underrated. She's immensely popular, right? But she deserves those accolades with the songcraft of Getting Older, or NDA, which has things about her life in it, and an amazing video where she risked death for the video. She risked death on several of her videos, but with all these cars coming with inches of hitting her in the middle of the night in a desert, amazing.
Things I'm longing for. Someday I'll be bored of. It's so easy that we care so much until we don't. You couldn't save me, but you can't let me go. I can crave you, but you don't need to.
Finneas, her brother, helps produce those albums and write with her. Well, he has a solo career also. So Finneas came out with his album, and it is not as good, in my opinion, as his EP, but it is still very good. Wonderful music on Finneas.
If I could see the future, I never would believe her. Falling in and out of love and falling in again. We were never any good at being friends. We've got the time to take the world and make it better than it ever was.
And much like all of the world, I could not get enough of Olivia Rodrigo's album Sour. Every song on it is great. some of the songs are similar to each other, so you're like, did I already hear this? So, but for a debut effort, great. And she wrote with somebody else, but I don't think she wrote with like a lot of people, like not a lot of new pop artists do. So also on Disney Plus, where you can see her kind of go through the songs in a different way, sort of a little piece about her film. I did not watch the prom that she did, where she kind of did all these songs live in a fake prom, that's funny. But the song Deja Vu is fantastic, and Jealousy, Jealousy, I think is also a really a great song, So listening to a lot of Olivia Rodrigo in 2021.
Do you get deja vu? I know it's true, but I can't help getting caught up in your comparison. It's killing me slowly. I think too much about kids who don't know me.
Also could not get enough of Fiona Apple's Fetch the Bolt Cutters. That album, the more I listen to it, I mean, she was up against Phoebe Bridgers, I think, at the time for the Grammys. I think Fiona should have won. Definite jazz influences, free jazz influences, a challenging new type of album, and I think it was great. I think it was fantastic, so I listened a lot to Fetch the Bolt Cutters from Fiona Apple.
I told you I didn't want to go to this dinner. You know I don't go for those ones that you bother about. So when they say something that makes me start to simmer, that fancy wine won't put this fire out. Oh, kick me under the table all you want. I won't shut up, I won't shut up. And next year it'll be clear this was only leading me to that. And by that time I hope that you love me.
Still was on a Black Pumas kick. I think it came back around again because the music was used in a Netflix movie. So Black Pumas was like a neo-soul group. Here, check it out.
You give a grown man a heart attack. I pray that good Lord will bring you back. You're my sunshine. Shoot me down and break my heart. It's the black horizon.
But also, in the neo-soul tip, Richard Riley had suggested this album, so I went and I got that one to listen to, Lawrence. Now, Lawrence is a Brooklyn brother and sister team. So, the sister, and this is true of a lot of new singers, they sing like they're like a 1920s flapper, you know, and they say just words in this weird affectation, and I honestly think it has something to do with Amy Winehouse, if you want my honest opinion. First instead of first, you know, and so the songs where she sings along with her brother are great. I do like a couple of songs that she's the lead on, but some of them I like less than the brother who does lead. Album's definitely grown on me. That annoys. I mean, and also Billie Eilish and others do weird things, you know. Another trend that bothered me for years that dudes would always sing, especially in power ballady kind of songs, May instead of me. May. You and May. Faced. You know, what's I don't know. I don't understand the youth of today.
I've never dealt with this before, and I've never felt so insecure. Could somebody tell me what's inside? I'm sure. Thinking thinking about you, thinking about you, but am I allowed to? Maybe this is news to you, but I've been told not to, and I'll be waiting for you, whoever you are, whoever you are.
Steve Carlson had mentioned this guy, Neil Francis. And I've been obsessed with Dream Machine and Matthew Melton and his prior bands. And he did a video on his Tascam reel-to-reel recorder, which is kind of a mid-fi multi-track recorder. Kind of an obscure piece of equipment. Neil Francis made a comment on that video. Hey, I'm using this for my new album. It changes. Steve Carlson mentions Neil Francis. I'm like, oh, all right, I'll check it out. Neo Soul as well. Great stuff. His second album, a little more into 80s kind of synth pop, I think. It just didn't click with me at all. So I prefer the debut album, and that's kind of where I stopped.
Let me get it this time alone. I won't fool around. I know you've seen me trying, and only causing pain. A lot of people want to sing, something not right with me.
Steve Carlson also mentioned The Real Kids, which was one of the original members of the Modern Lovers with Jonathan Richman, but he had left, I think, before the band even recorded anything. And so he was kind of a interesting power pop, back to old school kind of rock. So you can't call it the Ramones, but something similar vein. So I downloaded that and The Real Kids.
I never thought of myself upside down, but I was so much in love. But this girl, I know she put me down. I need someone new, someone who's gonna make my heart jump the way she used to do. All kinds of girls, falling in love again.
Steve Carlson also mentioned this other band offhand, Shit Kid. And I'm like, well, that's a great name. So, okay. And the album's called Detention. But interestingly, so I'm listening to it, I'm like, wow, so this is like a good pop-punk band from California. Maybe Riot Girl influenced, because it's an all-female band, I think. And no, it's some kind of art project from somebody in like, in Northern Europe, like Scandinavian countries. And she had like this real weird alt rock thing beforehand, and then this, which sounds like just fun punk pop.
Stole my teacher's cigarettes, found them in her purse. Went out during math class to smoke them in the girls' room. Trash can caught on fire, and I'm not a good liar. They caught me with the lighter, trying to make the fire work.
Guy named Herkimerk, who I'm sure is not watching. A lot of people will come to my channel and then just never come back again, which I totally understand. He had mentioned, hey, if you like That Dog, you'll like Charlie Bliss. So I got around to actually listening to Charlie Bliss, and he was right. It's totally up my alley. This one album, from what I listened to other samples of other albums, it just didn't hit the exact same way. So this might be all I need from Charlie Bliss. But I listened to this quite a bit as well.
Life doesn't know it, anything goes. Karate lessons, reality shows. I feel so tired, can't believe this is it. It's gonna break my heart to see it blown to bits. I can barely keep myself afloat when I'm not saving you. Resurrected from the basement. I'm not capacity, I'm spilling out of me.
Spirits Spiritualized came out with 2 albums over the period. This one album, which I don't know the name of, I prefer. It's a little bit kind of like a successor, a continuation of Ladies and Gentlemen, We're Floating in Space. From what I understand, Jason Spaceman wanted these albums to be just one big double album, but the record company kind of forced them to 2 separate albums. So, I don't know. One album's a little more romantic sounding, and then the other one's a little more, I mean, you can't call it dance, but, you know, active sounding. Because Spiritualized can run into those 2 categories of, hey, it sounds like you're, coming off a heroin overdose, or it sounds like a noise gospel is kind of how Spiritualized sounds.
If you want a universe, I would be a universe for you. Always together with you. Always forgetting with you.
Animal Collective came out with a new album. If you've never gotten into Animal Collective, this is the album to get into. So Animal Collective, the one thing they love is noise, and sometimes you have to listen through the noise to actually hear what's going on underneath, and melodies and songs, because you're like, wow, that's grating, right? And then underneath it is what's going on, and that's mellowed out a little bit over the years. But certainly Animal Collective's album, Merriweather Post Pavilion, is like that. It's kind of, these African tribal things, but noise on top of that. This is way more melodic. Still a fan of noise. It's in there, but it's on the passenger seat side as opposed to the driver's seat. So the new Animal Collective album, can't say enough good things about it. Digital Gramophone said several times, "Hey, my favorite album, my favorite band is Spoon." Like, name's familiar. Don't know anything about them. Let me get a best of. So I got a best of. Love it. Love not enough to get the albums. I am happy with sticking here with the best of, and the best of is, well, great. So they've had a huge, long career here. 30 years, 20 years, 30 years. It's been a while. So nothing wrong with that. They just came out with a new album. I am not going to get it because I've got enough on my plate. So I'm not going to dive into it. I've not active enough to become a fan, but active enough to have the best of and enjoy it. So best of Spoon. Everything... whatever it's called. Let's see if I can find out real quick. Everything Hits at Once, of course, from the song.
Never wake up on our own. That's the way we get by. So the way we get by. All that's the way we get by. So the way we get by. Yeah. And you wasn't alone. It hit me like a tom. You hit me like a tom.
During the pandemic, Weezer came out with this album. It is a symphonic kind of piece. It was conceived beforehand, but a lot of the topics fit very well in with the pandemic. So this is OK Human, a joke title against OK Computer.
All my favorite songs are slow and sad. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Weezer's hit and miss for a long time. This is a huge hit, and I've talked about, I think, this album in the past as well, but I just kept going into this album deeper and deeper, and I love it. A lot of the songs all flow into each other, so it feels like one big piece. They did it alone during the pandemic in an empty Disney concert hall. That video was available for a while. I think it's been pulled down because you had to pay for that concert. So Maybe it'll pop up again, but that was just a gorgeous performance. Great album. Okay Human by Weezer.
And your IQ's too low for poetry. Numbers are out to get you. Numbers are out to get you. Numbers. Ooh, I hear the sadness in your laughter.
I was a big fan of Lana Del Rey's Norman Effing Rockwell. I was not a fan of Chemtrails Over the Country Club. Super Wes said, "Oh no, you should listen to that album again. It's really, really good." I'm like, nah, you're wrong, Wes. I had it on, and I'm listening to the opening song, White Dress. Tale of a young waitress, and she, goes to a music conference where she's discovered. And so it's right before she hits, going into a career in music and becoming a big thing. Maybe it's autobiographical, maybe it's not. So the lyric was, down at the Men in Music Business Conference, it was down in Orlando. I'm like, Men in Music Business Conference? What the hell does that mean? The Men in Music Business Conference. And then, so now I'm like, what is this song about? And it's a weird tongue-in-cheek about femininity and gender roles, especially in context to the entertainment business. And now it becomes this big, heavy song hidden in this song about a waitress in her white dress. And I'm like, there's a lot more going on. This is way deeper than I realized. I'm going to listen to this album again, and the album is great. So Wes was completely right. The album is great. Chemtrails Over the Country Club. So, I mean, a lot of it has to do with middle class, ennui of, upper middle class, well-to-do white people and their first world problems. And their first world problems are nothing to be diminished, because that was, I think, also part of the problem. It came out during a summer of unrest with George Floyd. So it's just like, wow, this is what you're complaining about. But now that we're separated from that slightly, obviously not because it keeps happening every damn day, now I can appreciate the album and the topic matter.
How I do this, look how I got this. I was a waitress, working the night shift. You were my man, felt like I got this. Down at the Men in Music Business Conference, down in Orlando, I was only 19. Down at the Men in Music Business Conference, I only mentioned it 'cause it was such a scene, and I felt seen.
Under the chemtrails, over the country club, wearing our jewels in the swimming pool. Me and my sister just playing it cool. Under the chemtrails, over the country club.
Came up with Blue Banisters, kind of the trilogy, the third part of the trilogy of these albums of Longing, and there is some jazz vocals in here that are just tremendous. And this is also, the more I listen to this album, the more I realize it's a really actual challenging, groundbreaking album in the way it's doing its music, just like the Fiona Apple album. I think it flew under the radar because people dismissed Lana Del Rey, and they shouldn't. The production work with Jack Antonoff and collaboration, I mean, it really is stunning music that is not getting its due, in my opinion. And the whole album, Blue Banisters, is as good as Norman Effing Rockwell. Definitely should check it out.
You dodged the detriment most of the friends I knew already had. my story. I'll do this dance with you. All roads that lead to you as integral to me as arteries that pump the blood that flows straight to the heart of me, America. America. I can't sleep at home tonight. Send me a Hilton hotel or across on the hill. I'm a lost little girl finding my way to here.
And the final thing that I listened to a whole lot in 2022, I mean a whole lot in 2022, was the album that everyone listened to, I think, not talked enough in the vinyl community, but that is Wet Leg, their debut album. The songs are catchy as hell, and so it's two friends who made it when both their careers were not taking off in music. Ryan Hester, just piano, played this music and just wasn't going anywhere, so she picked up guitar with her friend and made this. Wasn't expecting it to go anywhere. In a few months, they were signed and they were touring, and they weren't actually ready for it. They thought they were done with the music business, so they just kind of did this for their own amusement and didn't think people were going to listen to it. You can't trust their interviews because they lie a lot, which is the right rock and roll thing to do. But it was another Steve Carlson mention. He said he's been watching a lot of live videos. I don't think they're great live, to be honest with you, but he does. So maybe he's watching better videos than I am. But back on the affectation, the one knock against the album is sometimes the lead singer goes into this kind of Bjork kind of singing, which is what she did in her solo career before Wet Leg. You know, like, you know, it sings like that sometimes, and it's not that you need to get used to it. It's you need to tolerate it for the rest of the music. That's great, and just funny lyrics, self-effacing lyrics. Great pop punk alt rock album. Wet Leg.
Light down, only just got up. I feel so uninspired. I feel like giving up. I feel like someone has punched me in the guts, but I kinda like it 'cause it feels like being in love. Hey you, over there, on the chaise long in your underwear. What are you doing sitting down? You should be horizontal now.
That is it from Dixieland Farm. Whew, that was a long one. All right. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Take care.